Do you know that the word depression is not only applicable to humans, but also to the economy? Are you aware that the effect of depression on a human being is synonymous with what depression can do to an economy? In this video, you will have an understanding of what economic depression truly means, the countries that have experienced it in the past, and how to prepare for a depressed economy in 10 different ways. Let's know the whole story. What is economic depression? An economic depression is an occurrence wherein an economy is in a state of financial turmoil, and it is often the result of a period of negative activity based on the country's gross domestic product, GDP, rate. It is said to be an economic recession if the declination only lasts for a few months within a year. In a situation where the economic declination lasts longer than a year, and it's heading towards 2 or more years, and the GDP declines above 10%, it moves away from being an economic recession to an economic depression. Because it negatively affects GDP, it leads to a high rate of interest on loans from banks, falling house prices, deflation in the community, and a reduction in international trade. But what countries have experienced the Great Economic Depression in the past? How often have you heard of the Great Economic Depression? Well, it's an era most wish never to experience again. The Great Depression went on for a decade in the United States, and it made the employment rate go up to 25%, while the wages fell by 42%. This period, which lasted from 1929 to 1939, was the worst economic downturn in the history of the industrialized world. The industrialized Western world had never before faced a depression of such length and severity, and as a result, economic institutions, macroeconomic policy, and economic theory underwent significant changes. Although it began in the United States, the Great Depression adversely affected nearly every nation in the world, resulting in sharp drops in output, high unemployment rates, and acute deflation. No less startling were its social and cultural repercussions, particularly in the United States, where the Great Depression was the country's greatest period of hardship since the Civil War. However, Great Britain did not experience a serious depression until the beginning of 1930, and its industrial production fell by about 1/3 less from its peak to its peak than did the United States. The early 1930s saw a relatively brief recession in France as well. However, the French comeback in 1932 and 1933 was just temporary. Early in 1928, Germany's economy began to contract before stabilizing and contracting once more in the third quarter of 1929. Before the output decreased in the United States, in late 1928 and early 1929, a few Latin American nations experienced a downturn. While some less developed nations went through catastrophic depressions, others like Argentina and Brazil only went through relatively minor recessions. A moderate depression that started somewhat late and ended relatively early also affected Japan. But what are the 10 ways to prepare for economic depression? Remember that depressions can last for longer periods, so preparing for them may necessitate a more serious time commitment in terms of thinking about personal finances. Number 1. Develop the habit of saving for emergency funds. One thing savings gives an individual is an assurance that all hope is not lost, and you need this assurance to weather the storm of economic depression. Take a moment and reflect on this question. If you are hit by the loss of a job or business crash, would that mean the end of income for you? An economic depression comes with so many negative impacts, and a spiking rate of unemployment is one of them. It is best to be aware of this and prepare accordingly. But what is one of the best ways to do this? Savings, savings, and savings. Number 2. Reduce the loan you take and increase the amount you save. This serves as an emergency fund for when things go south. If you are currently spending unnecessarily, cut out those forms of spending so you can create a scheme for savings. However, if you do not want your money to sit idle, you can save it in a high-interest savings account. If you can be devoted to doing this, in the event of economic depression, you will only suffer a minimal negative effect. This is because your savings are bailing you out. Clear those debts. At times, it's easier to get into debt, but getting out can be hard. What's harder still is owing debt during the Great Depression. So my advice is to take note of all the debts owed and create a repayment plan. Another thing that would be terrible is if your debt account has a high interest rate, because when there's an economic depression, there's inflation, and even the loan interest rate will increase. Number 3. Make budgeting second nature. Spending carelessly or frivolously is detrimental to your survival when there's a depression. Spending habits like, "Oh, I want to purchase this designer bag," do not follow the budgeting rules and will leave you with zero money in your purse. Highlight all you need in accordance with their level of importance, and buy only those things that are essential to your daily living. Be careful when deciding on investments. Making an investment can either make or mar you. This is the reason why investment companies put a disclaimer on their page. And this is another reason for you to know that your investment is solely your responsibility. In other words, when there's an economic depression, most organizations are affected and stocks will crash. This means that if you invest in a company and they are harmed, your money is also harmed. So be adequately sure of your investment decisions or seek the guidance of financial advisors. Number 5. Be an indispensable employee. There's this saying, when the value of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. How valuable are you at your place of employment? When economic depression hits and organizations are only retaining a few employees, would you make the list? If your answer is uncertain, then you have your work cut out for you. Improve your skills and receive training that will make you valuable. The good news is, you don't have to go broke while trying to add more value to yourself. There are free resources like LinkedIn Learning that will greatly help you. Consider learning digital skills, because more companies are trending towards a remote work system. Number 6. For extra cash, get another source of income. Ask any millionaire and they will tell you that having several streams of income is one of the ways of being rich. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Look for other ways you can earn extra cash aside from your current job. Discover something you're passionate about and turn this into a side gig. In the event that depression affects your job, your side gig will keep you afloat. Number 7. Don't forget your financial standing. When there's depression, there's a lack of finances. So, to survive this period, do not forget your credit score. This will serve as a constant reminder of your strength financially. If your current credit score is bad, try and improve it now. Do not get caught in the recession with bad credit, because you won't be able to access loans from the bank. Banks and other lenders will only prioritize people with stellar credit over other applicants. Number 8. Move to the countryside if you are able to. Economic depression can result in chaos and pandemonium because the populace has lost hope to an extent. Imagine not knowing where your next meal is coming from, or not being able to provide for your household despite being qualified. This builds up frustration, and the feeling of hopelessness is then transformed into anger, which will result in chaos. Now, the city is populated, and more people are likely to be victims of an outburst. However, when you're residing in the countryside, there's more peace and less chaos on this side. So, in preparing for an economic depression, try living in the countryside, and you will have a better chance of surviving the trying time. Number 9. Be long-sighted. If your current mode of planning is for a short period of time, let's say weeks or months, you will be greatly affected by the depression. Assuming that the economic downturn is going to be short-lived is an error, because it's actually unpredictable. Therefore, cancel every short-term plan and commence with a plan that covers the long term. When saving, let it be for the long term, so that you won't be caught in an unexpected depressive situation. Number 10. Prioritize your physical and mental health. The period of depression and its negative consequences will most likely put a strain on your health, and when an individual is unhealthy, the chances of survival in the depression period are minimal. Eat healthy foods and exercise regularly to keep your body fit. Avoid any mental stressor that might affect you, and stay focused on what will keep you mentally sane. Even if you observe all the other tips but fail at this one, then you have invariably failed. As cliche as it may sound, health is wealth, both physically and mentally. Are you aware of economic depression? What are the measures you use in prepping for it? Let us know your opinion in the comment section right below. Also, if you want to watch more interesting videos like this one, then make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you loved the video, make sure to hit the like button and share the video with your friends. Until the next video, stay tuned.